leaders of the world. Welcome to Spread Love in Organizations, a podcast for purpose-driven healthcare leaders striving to make life better around the world by leading their teams with genuine care, servant leadership, and love. I'm Naji, your host for this podcast, joined today by Alon Shklarek, serial impact entrepreneur, investor, and enabler. Alon has founded, co-founded, and invested in over 25 businesses across 16 countries to date. Whether it is his ventures in the digital health space that are improving health outcomes for thousands of patients every day, or his sustainability-focused ventures, such as his leading plastics recycling company that gives over 100,000 tons of plastic waste a second life every year, all his companies are focused around leading with purpose and impact. As active impact investor, Alon directly supports and mentors selected social entrepreneurs and is an ASN member of Ashoka, the world's leading social entrepreneurship organization. Besides, Alon teaches leadership and entrepreneurship as guest lecturer at MIT. I am so humbled, Alon, to have you with me today, live from Vienna.
Well, actually, live from Boston. We're actually not far away.
You're here!
I'm at MIT. Well, I'm really pleased to be here. We've been working on that date for quite some months now, so it feels like finally we're getting together. That's great.
First, Alon, I would love to hear your personal story. What took you to serial entrepreneurship, and more specifically, your passion for healthcare and social entrepreneurs?
Well, so I guess I'll start by saying I made it a whole 3 months as employee many years ago, and luckily realized very quickly that this wasn't the right path for me, right? And mainly it was because I predominantly had to do stuff that I thought to be wrong, and that went against my beliefs. And I think when I reflect on that, I was lucky to have had a mentor back then that asked me a really interesting question. And you remember, I was really young, like 20 years old. And that mentor asked me a question that had a very deep influence on my life, which I realized only later. And the question was, what makes you tick? And he told me that I can take as many days or weeks or months that I needed to answer this question. But the only guideline was the answer could only be one single word. And if you think about that, what makes you tick is like, what is it that gets you up in the morning and makes you excited, and what is the energy really that fuels your life? And one word is really hard. Is it harmony or independence or love? Speaking about your podcast, and so it took me really quite some time, but I understood that what really makes me tick is freedom. And that in order to get that freedom, I would have to be able to follow my passions and my purpose. And I can't follow someone else's passion and purpose. And that is really what got me into starting my first company, because I really felt this is what I want to do, and this would give me the freedom of turning my passion into a business that really would improve the world. And so 30 years later, when we're sitting here, I've co-founded, and later on invested in quite a number of businesses. And I guess I should put a full disclosure here that I do enjoy making profits, but not in isolation. And I always try to focus on businesses that do some good in the world. Although I have to say, I never had a word for that. And that's why I really love the fact that in the past few years, the word impact has become mainstream, has been coined and then become mainstream. For me, it was a little like, loving avocados just for the way they taste, and then basically learning they're actually called superfoods. And so my superfood, my entrepreneurial superfood is impact. And that is at the core of really everything I do. And I guess also interesting is looking back is my most dismal failures are actually with businesses that didn't focus on purpose and impact. So it's really no purpose, no passion, no success, obviously no impact. And it sounds like a truism, but it's one that I hold very dear.
I would love to hear a little bit more stories about the different companies that you co-founded and the massive impact you actually have through each one of them. How did you end up in having social impact in healthcare specifically? You built one in India, we talked about last time. Can you tell us a little bit the stories and kind of the common thread of all the companies you've built or you helped build across the world?
Yeah, so first of all, it's never alone. It's never me alone. It's not the story of a guy that has all it himself. It's always with people. It's the co-creation of impact. And coming back to that purpose element, this is so important because when you find people with a shared purpose, it's like compounding your energy. It's not 1 + 1 is 2. It's actually much more than that. But back to your question on, it really, and I'm sorry to disappoint you, there is no strategy in my entrepreneurial journey. Really, there is none. It's not like a fund that has a focus. Okay, we are a healthcare fund. It's really, I guess the best way to describe it is when I see a problem, I start a business, period. Like when I see a problem that really touches me or I care about, I really want it solved, I think about, okay, the only thing I know is building businesses. How can I actually use that knowledge and that power that I have to actually address that problem? And I think it's coincidental, to be very honest. Like I get to some kind of problem and I dig into it and I love to get into the detail, I double click on it, and that's something leads to the other. Specifically about healthcare, like 12 years ago, and we started in Germany. We've actually built the largest German doctors network. And then we went on to India. And actually, a few years ago, we started in Latin America, which goes very well. And the idea was that it is really interesting if you look at doctors are at the heart of a healthcare system, and every single dollar that exchanges hands in the healthcare system is because of either a therapeutic or a diagnostic decision of a doctor at the core, really. A little simplified, but still. And then you, as a patient, and we all know that ourselves or a family member or someone that we love, when they have a problem, there is a lot of luck involved whether you get to the right doctor. Even if it's a specialist and very well known, you really need to be lucky to get to the right person that knows exactly how to diagnose the right thing. And I'm sure you come from that field. We all know these stories. Like it took 3 years to finally find something, or in more sad cases where you don't find the right approach. And on the other side, you have that collective knowledge of all doctors around the world. And if we could actually link that together, wouldn't that be wonderful? So that was the problem I tried to address. There is a patient with a problem, and it's absolutely coincidental whether he sees a doctor that actually can help him or not. But for sure, out of the 10 million doctors we have in the world, there will be someone that would have seen that already or whatever. So how can we get that together? That was the idea. And what I love about that idea really is that what we achieved is to make it free for patients, free for doctors. It's completely free. And the only way actually that business is monetizing is by aggregating and anonymizing all the data that we generate on a daily basis through all these conversations and actually making meaningful insights for the healthcare community out of that. And I think that's great. It's a win-win for all.
As a founder and investor, of several other companies, what are the key capabilities or traits you look for in leaders you recruit or entrepreneurs you invest in?
Well, there are quite some, but I think authenticity is probably the first thing I look for, because we live in a world where everybody tries to make us be something else than we really are. I mean, it starts with all due respect to all the parents out there, and my parents and everyone. But parents have a very clear view of what their kids should do very often, and then the teachers, and then if you join a company, I mean, there's the whole world constantly tries to make something out of you that you're maybe not, and that, you know, focusing on what you really want and what your purpose is. I'm coming back to that purpose part. That is something I really look for first. I'm not sure it's a capability really, but that would be one. And then one thing that I really specifically look for, and I try to, you know, also train myself all the time, is listening. And it may sound super simple, you know, okay, that's clear, everybody is listening, but I talk about a specific way of listening. It's listening to understand rather than to reply. And that requires a lot of training. If we think about it, very often if we're in a conversation, the moment someone opens his mouth and starts to talk to us, we already think about what we want to reply. And training yourself to really listen, like until the end, and really try to get to the bottom of what others are saying, that's a really important leadership capability, because it helps you to make sense of the world around you. It helps you to build relationships. It helps to find new ways to address problems. It helps you to drive diversity and differences of perspectives. It helps you actually bring out the best in others because you give them time and space. So I guess if I have to choose one, that's like my core capability that I would look for.
Those are great. I so agree with the listening, right? Like taking this offer, the yes, and really looking at how you can build on someone else's proposal every single time. Yeah. I also remember, Aaron, in the class I had the privilege to be in, where you gave us a talk on entrepreneurship. The framework you shared with us, I still remember it had teams in the center, and you talked a lot about the purpose first for this team. And it was really intriguing for me because many times we're focused on the product, on the problem we want to fix, the solution, the invention that we have, but you're really focused on teams and purpose. Can you detail a little bit more your thoughts on this?
Well, it's, of course, a great team with a really bad idea will also not be successful. Let's be clear about that. So, level playing field, we are talking about comparing good or okay ideas with potential with other good or okay ideas with potential. And then the team is really what makes or breaks it, very obviously. And the connection between team and purpose relates a little bit back to what I a few minutes ago, is around understanding and compounding the energy that is created by really focusing on what makes you tick. So if a team of founders meet at MIT, where we met too, and the dorm room type of startup, but then one of them really pursues that startup idea because he deeply cares about, for example, healthcare and improving patient outcomes. And the other one really, and I'll use that kind of little extreme example, really just wants to join that startup because he wants to get rich really fast. Now, if the purpose or if the drive and the motivation behind why people are doing it are not compatible, very, very quickly, those teams usually, just fall apart. Or in even worse cases, when it falls apart quickly, that's actually good because then you can move on. But very often it's kept together and it's under the surface, and it actually, explodes at the worst possible time. But I think having alignment around purpose is so important, because building a startup is so hard, and you have so many setbacks, and you take 2 steps forwards, 3 steps backwards, and you always need to tackle problems every single day. And only having that glue between the people, that you really understand why you're doing that, and you can remind yourself about it, that is really what will get you to the finish line, really.
So any story about a social startup you want to highlight today, Alon?
Sure. There's so many. I don't even know where to. Honestly, it's like, I have 3 kids. It's like asking me, you have to pick one. I can't. There's so many incredible social entrepreneurs down there, and it starts with what is really a social business. And maybe I'll use that, even though it's not a real answer to your question, but I really believe social business is not about not making profit. It's really about because profits are not bad. If you think about money, the question about it is, where does it come from, and for what are you using it once you have it? So as long as your business model is focusing on on revenue streams that are actually not giving any social concern, and you're using the money wisely, I think you can think about being a social business. I actually think every single company, every single one, can have a social impact focus or impact focus, whatever you do. Let me give you an idea of an example of one company that I built in the additive manufacturing space. So it really we took that company from a more or less bankruptcy situation, and they were building projectors for movie theaters. No, there's not a lot of social impact there, right? And we transformed the company, because it's the same technology that is at the core, for 3D printing technology. So if you think about a projector for a movie, it is a light source that goes through an optoelectronic system, and then the light hits a screen. And that's what you see in a movie theater. 3D printing, same principle. You have a light source, goes through an optoelectronic system, and then it hits liquid polymer. And where liquid polymer, oxygen, and light meet, the polymer cures, and this is how you 3D print. And so the interesting thing was switching kind of the whole company's idea to a more future-proof industry than movie theaters. And then, again, no impact there, but then using our competence in really high-precision 3D printing to look at organ printing. Today, if you think, and it's healthcare related, so if you think about lung transplants, for example, it's done by growing lungs in special pigs. And then when you need the lung, you kill the pig. You need to chemically wash the lung because it is animal DNA, of course. Then you enrich it with human DNA, and then you actually implant it into the patient's body. Of course, many complications, etc. It's not humane, obviously, for the pig. I mean, it's not nice to kill animals, etc., etc. What we are looking at is trying to actually print lungs for transplants, and we're pretty close to getting there. And this is just if you think about it, if any single business I think that you have, you can think hard, okay, how can I impact the world, and how can I use what we do best in this company to actually make the world a better place? And I always say jokingly, maybe you can't do that if your idea is to build Tinder for cats, but for any other business, I think you can have impact.
I love it. This is such a powerful example, Alon. I will give you now one word, and I'd love to get your reaction to it. So my first word, the first one is leadership.
Well, my reaction to one word, I guess my first reaction to it is that there is a myth that good leaders are superhumans. That is my first reaction. There's very often, and I think it changes, but especially if you look a few years back, we always had that, or a lot of people had that feeling that leaders have all the answers, and they know everything best. It's actually the opposite. If anything, the advantage great leaders have over others is that they know their limitations and that they know that they don't have it all figured out, but they actually see the advantage in having others around them that are better and more diverse, and that leadership is a team sport. Maybe that's the answer. My reaction to leadership is a team sport.
What about entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship is about turning your passion into businesses that improve the world, and entrepreneurship is definitely not owning a business. And a lot of people think about it this way. Being an owner is okay, that you own a business. Entrepreneurship is about really understanding what you care about, showing up, standing up, speaking up for what you care about, inspiring others to follow you on that path, and turning your passion into a business. And you could do that as an intrapreneur too. That's for me all the same.
Impact.
Making the world a better place. Very simple. As a side comment, all of our companies, we define what the actual impact is, and whether it is, a number of people that have access to medical information, or whether it is the millions of pounds of recycled plastics. I mean, whatever it is, we actually measure that on a day-by-day basis on the dashboard, and we always look at how are we doing in creating that impact.
And that's super powerful, I imagine, for all the stakeholders you have, right? Your employees who wake up and see the impact that they are having on the world, but also all the different stakeholders, the customers, the patients, etc. The last word is spread love in organizations.
Well, I'm not George Clooney, but my answer is what else? What else would you want to spread? Stress, anger. I mean, of course we need to spread love. What else, really? I mean, if you think about that, what makes you tick and the energy that you have, really, that gets excited in the morning and excited for what you can achieve on that day. The common ground for all of these are love, because without love, you're not touching the hearts of people, and you're not going anywhere without love.
This is so powerful. I love it. What else? Any final word of wisdom, Alon, for healthcare leaders around the world?
Any final? Well, guess I think a great leader is someone that is barely noticed, you could say, where when things are done, the team actually is proud to have done it themselves. A little bit about poor leaders, I would say tell, and average leader explain, and good leaders demonstrate, but great leaders inspire. And they do that not by being superhumans, but by helping all others around them to be the best versions of themselves.
Wow. Thank you so much, Alon, for being with me today and having such an amazing and inspiring discussion. Thank you.
Well, I thank you. It was really, I enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you all for listening to Spread Love in Organizations podcast. Drop us a review on your preferred podcast platform. Connect with us on SpreadLoveIO.com or on LinkedIn. Most importantly, spread love in your organizations and spread the word around you to inspire others and amplify this movement our world so desperately needs.